It began on a Tuesday morning. The main tunnel boring machine, nicknamed Mole Major, shuddered violently. It then ground to a halt. Alarms blared, their urgent calls cutting through the subterranean din. The lead engineer, a man named Arthur Jenkins, felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Such stoppages were costly and sometimes dangerous. He hurried towards the machine's massive cutter head. The air was now heavy with an unfamiliar tension. Initial reports suggested an exceptionally hard rock seam. This was not entirely unusual in this region, but the drills designed to chew through the toughest stone made no impression. They whined, they smoked, but they did not penetrate. The hardened steel bits, normally so effective, were blunted. Some even shattered against this unseen barrier. The foreman shook his head, his expression grim. "Never seen out like it, Arthur," he muttered. "It's like trying to drill solid diamond." Small exploratory boreholes were attempted around the main obstruction. Each one met the same fate, an impenetrable surface lying flat directly in their path. It was not rock, the sensors indicated. The density readings were off the charts, unlike any known mineral. A strange, subtle vibration could be felt through the drills. Days turned into a week of careful, painstaking excavation. The rock around the obstruction was chipped away. Slowly, methodically, the teams worked under bright floodlights. The air of anticipation was thick, almost tangible. Each fragment of stone removed brought them closer to understanding what had halted their mighty machine, what lay hidden, silent and unyielding in the ancient darkness. The faint hum persisted. A subtle thrum felt more than heard. Gradually an edge was revealed. Not jagged like a natural rock formation, but smooth, perfectly straight and metallic. A dark, lustrous metal, unlike anything they had ever encountered. It reflected the work lights with a strange, oily sheen. As more was uncovered, the sheer scale became apparent. This was no mere boulder, no forgotten Victorian ironwork. This was a wall, a colossal, seamless metal wall stretching away into the unexcavated earth. It descended vertically, deeper than their drills could reach. It extended horizontally, wider than the planned tunnel. The surface was flawless, without weld, rivet or seam. It was as if it had been poured into place or perhaps grown. The metal itself felt cool to the touch, yet it did not cause condensation. The news of the discovery was at first tightly controlled, but secrets have a way of seeping out, especially one this monumental. Whispers began to circulate above ground, strange tales from the tunnellers, distorted and amplified with each telling. Meanwhile, something else began to stir in the city of Leeds. Subtle at first, easily dismissed. A flicker in the streetlights along Briggate, a momentary burst of static on the radio during the morning commute. Residents living closest to the new tunnel works reported odd occurrences. A faint, almost sub-audible hum, similar to that noted by the workers. It seemed to emanate from the ground itself. Some spoke of a peculiar restlessness in their pets. Dogs whining at nothing, cats staring intently at bare walls. These were isolated incidents, easily attributed to stress or imagination. The city continued its daily rhythm, largely unaware of the enigma below, but the anomalies, however slight, began to collect. Headaches became more common among those living or working near the excavation site. Not severe but persistent, a dull throb behind the eyes. Some reported a strange metallic taste in their mouths. The anomalies were no longer confined to whispers or subtle sensations. They began to manifest more overtly across wider areas of Leeds. Power grids experienced sudden, inexplicable surges, then dips. Traffic lights would flicker out of sequence, causing minor chaos at junctions. The city's sophisticated communication networks started to suffer. Mobile phone calls would drop unexpectedly. Internet speeds would plummet, then recover for no apparent reason. These were not isolated glitches anymore. The city's wildlife began to behave erratically. Pigeons, usually so bold, became skittish, avoiding certain areas. Flocks of starlings were observed flying in confusing, disoriented patterns. Rats, normally hidden, were seen in daylight scurrying with unusual agitation. Even the fish in the river area seemed affected. Anglers reported them behaving strangely or disappearing from their usual spots altogether. The natural order felt subtly yet disturbingly out of kilter. Human behavior also showed signs of strain. Irritability seemed to rise across the city. Minor disputes escalated more quickly. A dedicated scientific task force was assembled. Geologists, physicists, metallurgists, even linguists and archaeologists. They descended into the excavated cavern, now a brightly lit, sterile environment, their mission to understand the colossal, silent wall. They brought with them the most advanced sensing equipment, ground-penetrating radar, magnetic resonance imagers, seismic detectors. They were determined to wrest answers from this impervious titan. But the wall remained stubbornly enigmatic. Initial scans confirmed its immense size. It plunged down, far beyond their ability to measure. It stretched sideways, seemingly without end. The metal itself defied analysis. No radiation was emitted, yet it absorbed radar and sonar signals completely. Attempts to gauge its thickness were futile. It was as if it were infinitely dense. The faint hum persisted, and the irregular electromagnetic pulses continued, baffling the experts. They could find no pattern, no discernible message. The team tried everything. They bombarded it with sound waves of every frequency. They subjected small, exposed areas to extreme heat and cold. As the scientific investigation stalled, the disturbances across Leeds intensified. The subtle hum was now a palpable vibration in some areas. Crockery would rattle on shelves, windows would buzz softly in their frames. Then came the tremors. Not earthquakes in the geological sense, these were localized, often brief, but unsettling shudders of the ground. They seemed to emanate from the vicinity of the wall, rippling outwards. They were becoming more frequent and stronger. Strange visual phenomena began to be reported, fleeting distortions in the air like heat haze on a cold day. Odd shimmering lights seen hovering over the city at night, particularly above the area of the wall. These were dismissed by some as optical illusions or misidentified aircraft, but the sheer number of consistent reports made them harder to ignore. The city felt increasingly like a stage for events beyond normal comprehension. The boundary between reality and the bizarre was becoming blurred. The wall itself began to exhibit new behavior. Dr. Aris Thorne, a brilliant but unconventional astrophysicist on the task force, had a breakthrough. He had been studying the erratic electromagnetic pulses from the wall. He had also gathered data on the citywide anomalies, the power surges, the communication disruptions, even the strange animal behavior. He believed there was a connection, a hidden synchronicity. Using complex algorithms, he began to search for correlations. For weeks, he found nothing but noise. Then a pattern began to crystallize. The pulses from the wall, though seemingly random, were not random at all. They were incredibly complex, a cascade of information. And the city's disturbances, they were not mere side effects. They were responses, or perhaps echoes. The wall seemed to be interacting with the city's own electromagnetic field, its infrastructure, its technology, even the collective bioelectrical fields of its inhabitants. It was as if the city itself had become part of a vast, unconscious circuit. Thorne theorized that the wall was not just a barrier, it was an interface, or perhaps a vast dormant processing unit. What it was processing, he could not guess. The situation in Leeds reached a critical point. The tremors became more violent, cracking roads and buildings. Strange lights in the sky were now a nightly occurrence. The air seemed to crackle with unseen energy. Dr. Thorne's theory suggested the wall was fully active. Its interaction with the city was no longer subtle. It was a dialogue, but humanity understood neither the words nor the consequences. Then, as suddenly as it began, the activity ceased. The tremors stopped. The lights vanished, the oppressive hum faded from the air. A fragile, unnerving calm descended upon Leeds. The scientific team found the wall unchanged, still dark, still silent, still utterly impervious. The electromagnetic pulses had simplified, settling into a slow, steady rhythm, a rhythm perfectly in sync with Earth's electromagnetic hum. Had it finished its observation? Had it achieved some unknown purpose? Or was this merely a pause before something greater? The wall offered no answers. It remained a colossal enigma in the heart of Yorkshire. The Northern Line extension was abandoned. The cavern was sealed, the city above trying to return to normal.